afternoon, wherever you are, and good evening, wherever you are. Thank you for joining us for the business mentoring session with Victor Prince Dickson. Victor Prince Dickson will be discussing with us on the knowledge economy. There's so much tie around knowledge economy, but of course, he will make justice with one of the aspects of knowledge economy. Um, I'm going to bring right now to join me without wasting much time, Victor Prince Dickson. Victor Prince Dickson happens to be the inventor of Common Sense, the founder of SiliconValley.com. Silicon Valley, yeah, is a knowledge-based platform. He's going to talk about that, and he's the executive director of Spice Media Limited. And of course, I've said it before. He's the owner and the inventor of Common Sense, an amazing game you want to get and play, not just with you, with your spouse, with your family. It's something that is very educational. It will change the way and manner people do a lot of things, not just business, diverse things. It touches almost every sphere of business. Without wasting much time, I want to bring up on stage with me Victor Prince Dickson. Mr. Victor,
Thank you. Yes,
for
yes,
joining
yes.
this wonderful platform. I think about a month ago, we are privileged to have Ugochukwu Omogu join us from Lagos. And today I'm having somebody with me here in Abuja, one of my boss. I call him my boss, Victor Prince Dickson. Just like I said, we'll be having a discussion around knowledge economy. Of course, he's going to introduce part of what he's going to be talking to us about today. I've introduced you, but for some of the things I've missed out, can you please tell us? We want to meet you again.
Okay, meet me
Yeah.
again. My name is Victor Prince Dickson, inventor of Common Sense, as you rightly said. But presently, what most people get to know that defines me in my entirety is called a transformation consultant. I've been paying so much attention to transformation, and the key thing I've been looking at is this: things are changing consistently. Change is constant, but there is always a conflict in everybody's life, whether it is personal or whether it is in business. And the conflict is, how do you survive change? How does change happen, which is consistent, yet how do you grow? Because the most important thing in anybody's life presently is growth. Whatever you're doing,
That's right.
whatever level you are in life now, you want growth. You know that, Solomon, right? You know that
That's
growth
right.
is very important. But as much as we want growth, the challenge is this: most times things do not balance well for growth to occur. For
That's true.
instance, business was doing well until COVID came and everything goes bad. Sometimes you're doing well in business and a new policy will come and things will go bad. Sometimes
That's
you're
right.
doing well as a person, you enter into a relationship and things just go bad. So consistently, every human being on earth, anywhere in the world you are, there is that consistent conflict between change on one hand and growth on the other hand. And the thing is that change is constant. So whether you like it or not, change will come. Whether you initiate it or not, change will hit you. But you
Mhm.
see, your own demand, your desire as a person is to grow. But then change comes along. And one of the things change does most times, it's not even giving you room to grow. So there is that constant conflict between change and growth. So I have been doing some studies, working on it for a very long time, with my experience in the creativity field, innovation field, my experience in coaching, my experience in training, business consultancy, and also as a businessman myself. Over the years, I have learned that the most important thing for anyone today, irrespective of your field, whether you're a beginner, advanced, whatever you're doing, is how do you manage change and grow in the process. And
Mhm.
that is what I define as transformation. How will things change and yet you come out better from the process of the change? How will COVID happen and yet you see it make better the experiences of COVID, rather than COVID swallowing you up, but you come out better from that. That's why you see most people, there are people who survive COVID and they are doing well. But there are those that will tell you, look, the pandemic, they will never forget it in life because it broke them, it broke their relationship, it broke their businesses. So my concentration presently is to look at, as an individual, how do you manage change, and then how do you grow? As a business, how do you confront change and still find growth in the process? And that is why I focus on transformation presently, because it's an entire game. It's a full-blown stuff. And that has been my key thing. So even as a businessman, which I own up to like 4 businesses operating differently, I have what do you call it, an internet business with more focus on LMS, which is the learning management system. I also have another form of business that has to do with agriculture, co-founded with a friend, Murphy Gospel, and the company is called Synergy Agro Allied Limited. And also have what do you call it, a new tea for which we launched from the Synergy Agro Allied, because we believe very clearly and we are keen into what the president of African Bank said, African Investment Bank said. That is the gentleman there, Akin, what's that his name again? I missed it. But basically he said, and we plugged into that. What he said clearly is that the time has come for Africans to move away from agriculture as a culture to enter agriculture as a business. So we have keyed into it. For that reason, I have one part, an agri company. So then I have a media and an internet organization. So it helps me play around the business, the training, the coaching, and I have particular interest in women development. So if you put all these things together, the best way that can define me presently in all I do is transformation, personal transformation, business transformation. I hope I've been able to summarize myself in the most smallest way I can.
Oh, yes. Thank you so much, Victor. I won't call you the father of transformation. There are many fathers who have lived before you. I'm just pulling your legs, but that's fine. To take us further on this transformation, we'll be looking at the knowledge economy as a whole, but he's going to be discussing with us specifically on the secret code to human capital development. This is what he's going to be doing. This is just the beginning. We're going to have loads and loads of sessions, not just with Victor, with other people, but for this aspect of transformation, which has to do with the knowledge economy, is a broad concept. And I really want anyone joining us on this platform to take advantage of this learning process, because it's not going to only transform your business, it's going to even transform how you take up yourself as a leader into your leadership cycle, down into you yourself, influencing culture and history of your small locality. That's what you may call it, but you can't tell how vast your own change, or rather your own transformation, can hit on the global platform in its entirety. But today, just like I said, one aspect of transformation we're going to be listening to Victor Prince Dickson talk to us about has to focus more on the knowledge economy around the secret code of the human capital development. So, Victor, of course, I won't ask you much question like the other interviews that I have with other persons. I'll just ask you to just go ahead with your session, if you permit me. Of course, is on the knowledge economy, the secret code to human capital development. So whichever way, we'll give you some time. I can just, once you just see me come up, I can just ask you question. I may just follow you quietly. But of course, I may interrupt you as time goes on to get more insight. Thank you so much. The floor is yours, Mr. Victor Prince Dickson.
Okay, thank you so much, Solomon. And the friendship have come a while. We've learned from each other, built from each other, and the rest. And I think this would be a good time to also appreciate you for what you're doing in mentoring. And for many, I think a lot of persons are getting to that point where they are beginning to learn the importance of mentoring. They're beginning to realize that, look, life could be easier if you have a mentor. If life could be easier if you can follow through the process. Most time, the thing is that there are a lot of suffering, the mistakes we do in business and relationship that are not necessary simply because we don't have a mentor. Because one of the
That's
things mentor does is that they take away the hard work, the mistakes they made it, the failure they have failed. So you are actually climbing on their failures and their mistakes to make the best out of life. And I'm hoping that as the progress of mentoring is expanding, not only individuals, even corporate organizations will start understanding that even as a unit of organization, they need to be mentored. Because give and
yeah.
take, a lot of people have failed along the line, made mistakes. So it makes more sense to take advantage of their failure, take advantage of their mistakes, and then gain insight into their successes, and then life will be faster. I always say the best way you get to know about mentoring for me is this. If you check the principle of development across the universe, you understand that somewhere like Europe took close to about 700 to 800 years to be able to develop. But then America got mentored from there. Some people in Europe came to America to find as the founding fathers of America. And then they brought in some, experiences, and that became a mentorship process. Then America took close to only just 350 to 400 years to be able to develop. So which means they cut that by half. And then Singapore looked at America somewhere along the line, and it took them only between 65 to 70 years to be able to develop. China looked at Singapore and decided to learn from them. It took them only 35 years or thereabout to develop.
Mm,
Dubai now presently looked at China, and it took them close to 15 years or thereabout
mm,
to develop. So you see,
mm,
development process, when you go to study it, someone will tell you it takes 700 years. But because of mentorship, you've seen the process. Somewhere along the line, it has been reduced to 15 years. That
yeah.
is the power of mentorship. But very few people understand that, and very only the smart people key into it. But I do believe that the more you do what you're doing and the consistency, look, the system will change. And that's why some of us will say concerning Africa that we are going to leapfrog, we are going to catch up because we are being mentored with some of the best, some that have learned the mistakes of the past from different environments, and this will quicken our growth faster than what many are thinking about. So that's that. So well done for that, and thank you for giving me this privilege and opportunity to come on this beautiful platform. Again, thank you so much. Now let's go back to knowledge economy. Knowledge economy is the most important business in the world today. There is no business that come close to it, and I'll explain to you the reason why. And the reason is simple. Because when you talk about knowledge economy, simply what we are discussing is the business of decision making. It's as simple as that. Though very simple, but very, very deep in terms of context and usage. Knowledge economy is too powerful. And the key thing there why knowledge economy is important is because the focus and attention is the business of decision making. Now, it is possible to say let's arrange the most important skills in the world. I know by practice, by teaching and what I do, that decision making is the most important skill in the world. There is no skill that comes close to decision making. And the reason is because every of our life is a bundle of decisions. Where you are as a person today is just a matter of the decisions you have taken in the past. Where you will be tomorrow is highly going to be dependent also on the decisions you are going to take. So ultimately, our life, our destiny, everything we want out of life is dependent on our ability to take the best and the proper decision. But very unfortunately, very few people understand that importance of decision. And so the entire principle of knowledge economy is tied to decision making. Ability to understand that each decision you take will make a difference in your life. It will change your business, it will change your relationship, it will change your positioning. The decision you make is going to be found in your product and services, in your customer relationship. You see decision making play out there. In your lifetime decision, maybe like marriage and relationship, you will see decision making there. In business partnership, you will see decision making. Ultimately, what's the role of a leader? Decision making. Because look, to be honest with you, there are a lot of skills in the world, but decision making is one of the most toughest. Reason being that the human world, the human field is designed in such a way that when you make one decision, the rest are just consequences. So you need to make another decision either to counter it or to build on that decision. And what do you need to make decision? Data, information, knowledge. This is what you need to make decision. And that is where the key principle of the word knowledge comes into play. Meaning the amount of knowledge you have is what is foundational to the kind of decision you are going to make. And since that is very key, the knowledge economy means that we are in a world that has become complex. We're in what they call the VUGA world. Before now, we had VUGA. And for those who don't know what VUGA is, VUGA simply means it was the height of study, it was the height of practice, and also the height of skill before the pandemic came. And simply what it stands for, V stand for volatility, U stand for uncertainty, C stand for complexity, then A stand for ambiguity. Simply what this meant, this was coined by two professors from a university in the US who were doing a study on leadership, trying to understand the environment, understand the challenge that has to do with the environment, has to do with leadership, has to do with nation building, that has to do with sector, industry, and the rest of them. And one of the key things they learned over the years was that, look, industries, individuals, a lot of people were volatile, as in almost people were like, they can easily spark up. And that is actually what gave birth to the rise of emotional intelligence. Because understanding that you're dealing with a volatile individuals, you're dealing with a volatile community, you're dealing with a volatile nations, it means little things spark them off. So if you don't have the emotional intelligence to be able to read, profile, and understand people, then you're going to be meeting people who are just off and on like light. And then eventually you're going to have issues with business, have issues with bilateral relationship and the rest of them. So that was VUGA. Then uncertainty. You make some plans today, you wake up in the morning, things changed. And so almost the whole world was like that. And because it's just logical, because people were volatile, then it means the business they were doing were also volatile. Decisions, relationship were volatile. And what that means by implication or consequently is that everything became uncertain. You were not so sure. You enter agreement in the morning, in the evening, it changes. You enter a relationship in the morning, evening, it changes. You are married in the morning, by next tomorrow, you are no longer married. So things were just so uncertain. People were not too sure what was on, what was up, and what was down. And then the next thing was complexity. So now you're dealing with how do you solve a problem that is multidirectional? And that was where complexity came on board. How do you handle things that has to do with someone being personal? Okay, take for instance, you have a boss come to the office and then take a decision that is actually anti the progress of the corporation or the brand, only for you to realize that that decision is taken is influenced by what happened at home with his wife. And so you have on one side a relationship or a marriage problem that have found its way into a business process or a business community. How do you handle that? It means that challenges were multidimensional. You need to handle at a personal level, a community level. Some challenges were cultural, some challenges were religious, some challenges were coming from different areas. So at the end of the day, you had a very complex situation in your hand. And then gradually, because of that, in trying to explain, we now develop what you call ambiguity, where people were having different definitions for different things. Relationship meant something different to different persons. Marriage meant something different to different persons. Business success means something different to, that was how the whole world was. So it was a tough environment. Then COVID came on board. So presently we have what we call VUGA plus COVID. So now it's making it more complex because what COVID did was that every solution we knew, everything we knew that could be solved with the coming of COVID, most of them failed us. So old remedies were no longer viable. Old concepts were no longer practical. So people now develop something new to be able to manage the new reality. So if you look at the entire of this, it says that for you to thrive, for you to excel, for you to win in this kind of world, you must be at the top of your game when it comes to decision making. You must be very good with decision making. You must understand the data. You must have enough information to deal with that. And that is why knowledge economy is key. Because economy, give and take, in the most simplest word, is a demand and supply. So it simply means the demand on supply of information and data that will enable you to make critical decisions in life, which will affect your business, your relationship, everything you do. So no, that's why I use the keyword that knowledge economy is everything, as in everything you do, leadership, relationship, and all. Because the economy in it is the supply of data and information. If you have little information, your decisions on your business will be little, and then you will suffer somewhere along the line. If you don't have the proper information, then it means that your decision making is going to be poor. And when your data and your decision making is poor, consequently, your business will suffer for it. That is what makes knowledge economy all encompassing. It is everything to different person at different time. Now, having said that, it lays the foundation to what knowledge economy is from my practice, from what I know, from studies, from research, and also from experience. So we move next. And it is actually based on this understanding that I developed what you call common sense. But then if you see, look at the slide presently, what we have there is the transformation. No, I can jump. You leave common sense, don't worry. Solomon, let's just go to the next slide, which is transformation. Now, if you look at the transformation, that's why I said I paid more attention to that. Because in my process of consultancy, of also doing business, I get to realize that you meet people at different levels of their life. And so if you bring a general solution, you will not be able to solve it. If you provide for them the same data, they won't be able to use it. Because it's one thing to say you have the right and the proper data, is another thing for you to say you have the capacity to process data. Because what exactly is the engine room of knowledge? The capacity to think. There is knowledge where you have the how you gather all the data and information, but also you have a machine, a processing unit called the human brain or the human mind. If the human mind is not strong enough, you may have the best data, the best information in the world, processing it is going to still be a problem. Because on one side you have data and information, on the other side you have a processing unit that is not strong enough to manage the data. You will find this in our basic computer where you have the central processing unit. You want to buy a system, they'll be asking you what's the size, what is the speed, because it's the same thing with humans. At the point you're talking data and information, you also need to ask the human that will process that data and information, what is their size, what is their speed, the size of their mind, the size of the brain, what is the speed and the capacity for them to process information. So in the journey of life, in the journey of what I do in practice coaching and also in my business, I get to learn that there are people, growth generally is divided into 4 key areas. And therefore, each person will only process information based on that level of that their growth. Meaning we may be the same place, be in the same place, go to the same school, listen to the same teacher, Google the same internet, have access to the same Facebook, but how we process the information and the data from that Facebook, it differs, depends on our level. And I divided it into 4. That's why I call it the Transformational Quadrant. That's what you see on the screen. The first one is at the awareness stage. When a person is in the awareness stage, whether it is in a relationship, whether they are in marriage, whether it is in business, whether in leadership, most of the things you hear from them, they're in the, I call them the siren stage. These are the people, they hear something, they say, wow, wow, that's nice, that's nice, that's nice, that's nice. They are very good at, oh, word. This is wonderful. This is deep. This is special. This is good. They are just aware. That's the best of what they are. Those who are at that level, they hear a lot of data, but they don't know what to do with those data. So they memorize the data and use it. It's just a memory. It's like going to school and memorizing certain things because you just want to pass exam. People who are at the awareness stage, they seek for information, but they don't use it. That's why if you're not very careful, if you do a critical analysis of yourself, you will get to realize that you're even performing less than what you know. There are a lot of things you have access to in books, you have access to friends, community circles, you're watching videos, radios, and across-board events. You have some very serious data and fact, but you have not been able to use it. So people at that level in the transformation timeline, they're at the awareness stage. They don't take decision, but they have the data. What they do is they memorize data and information, but yet they still belong to the knowledge economy field. They know data, they remember data, they memorize it, but they are not using it. Then you have the second phase. These are people who are at the deformation stage. These are people who they get data. What is deformation? For many, the key word you say deformation means destroy. No, it's like building. If you want to build, you must first of all break the earth, so that you can put foundation. If you want to plant, you must till the soil. Anything you want to do in life, you want to make omelette, you need to break, what do you call it now, the egg. Anything you want to do juice, you need to cut it into pieces. Everything you do in life, before you create, sometimes you may need to do what they call deconstruction, which means a positive way of destroying the old so that the new will come. So those who belong to this stage are people who access data, access information, and then they start using it to take key decisions, critical decisions in their life. Means they process the information they have gotten, process the data they have gotten. Then at the end of the day, what that means is that they start taking critical decisions. Some of them, you might get data such as the friends you hang around, the 5 friends you hang around, you're going to be the 6th person. So the person is saying, look, I'm hanging around people who have a poor mentality, who are not go-getters, so I need to keep away from them. At that point, you say a relationship is destroyed, but it's not destroyed. At that point, a relationship is just deconstructed so that the person will recreate a new phase of their life. You see people moving in an environment they have been comfortable with, where they live with people that are familiar. You see people changing markets, changing business, people rebranding. At first, you might think they are just losing up, but what they are doing is they are recalibrating. So it's a deformation stage, but all is driven because they have some certain level of data. Then you move to the third phase on the timeline. Don't forget the first one is awareness. The second one is deformation. The third one now is reformation. Now you've gotten enough data from the awareness. You're done with shouting, wow. You start putting it into practice. Now you're getting to the point where you start making some changes that people will think is destructive. But you know it's not destructive. You're trying to create something new. Now you have to now start recreating. This is where your creating level begins. You have known, you have prepared the ground, so you begin to plant. When I start seeing the beauty of the house that is coming through the digging of the foundation. We'll start seeing the beauty of the farm because it's beginning to sprout now. You're beginning to see the ridges arranged properly so that everything will grow in them. So you're beginning to reform. It's like you're recreating your world simply because you've gotten enough data and information that says, no, what you saw last time, you don't like it. So you want to change your life. And now you're putting those data and information into practice. Then you move to the last stage, which is transfiguration. This is when all what you're going through begins to show on the external. Most time people don't see, people don't understand, but this is when most people begin to see why you did what you're doing. At the point you were clearing the land, at the point you were digging, nobody knew the formation of the foundation. But at the point you get to transfiguration, now the foundation is set clear. Who knows, you have done the building, people are beginning to see your roof, the painting is beginning to show. And that's when someone can say, oh, now I understand. This is what the person knew. This is what the person was adjusting and changing before getting to that point. So if you look at this entire phase, most people are at this different level of their life, but because they don't know the full circle, they don't know how to manage it. They don't know how to engage it. So even when change comes to them, sometimes they don't understand that certain things happen to push them from awareness to deformation. Certain things happen to move them from deformation to reformation. Certain things happen to move them from a reformation to transfiguration. But they don't understand. For them, it's just change. For them, it's tragedy. For them, it's look, the society is not understanding. But what they are not getting critically clear that change has come. And when change comes, it demands you to grow. It simply means you are growing the level you are, change is pushing you. So you make two choices. Either you change before change will come, or you change when change comes. Two ways. One is proactive. You know that it will happen. So you prepare yourself and make the jump by yourself without circumstances pushing you. Or you will, circumstances will push you, and then you need to grow up to that point. I think I'll explain these two slides, and I see your back, sir. So let me pipe low and hear you. Ask the question, sir.
Okay, thank you so much. I almost call you Prof, but fine. Thank you so much, Prof. Victor Prince Dickson. If we give you all the time, I'm sure we'll do a 24-hour session, but you were so succinct in your ability to bring up the vocal concept down to this point where you're taking on the transformation quadrant. is apt and it's so powerful. And to be honest with you, I've seen so many aspects of me in the awareness aspect. I've seen myself tied around the deformation process, but I think I'm doing a lot of work around this reformation. That last stage is something that I need to get to consult from you, and of course, I'm going to pay good money to do that. Someone will be wondering, is he going to pay? Nevertheless, I want to ask you a simple question before we go further. Now, I'm sure there are people watching us. People come in and go out. I've been checking the whole thing, but someone may be wondering, this transformation quadrant, I'm stuck there. I may have been in awareness level for so long and things are not happening for me. I have been in a paid employment. My wife is no longer with me. Things have gone so messed up that I've not even moved to the next stage. Now he's wondering, listening to you concerning the transformation quadrant. Now, is there a duration kind of like for someone who will say to himself, I want to, listening to you, I want to see what will it take me, or how long will it take me to take up a project that I've been working on, maybe for some few months or for a year or two or more. But now that I've found myself on this awareness, how long do you think it would take me? When I use how long, is optional. It's not going to be the same for everybody. But how long do you think it would take me to get to that level of transfiguration, right? How long will it take me to arrive there? Is it lifelong journey? Is it something I do within 3 years? If I put in my all, will I be able to get that within 1 year, 6 months? So help us with that before we move forward.
Okay, yes, that's a very important question. The truth is that it depends on your processing capacity. When we go down, we look at the mind. It depends on the quality of your mind. Transformation is a game of the mind. Just the way you have the central processing unit measuring, having the capacity to process data. It's like if you keep serious, what do you call it now? Computers or laptops or systems on your table. And then you have the first one, they tell you this one is core maybe i5, you have another one core i7, this one has a better speed, this one has a better memory. That's how it works. The same information, but we process differently at different speed. It's the same thing. The human mind is the center where all these things happen. If you have if you have a good and solid processing unit, and when I use processing unit in transformation, what I mean is the mind. It means the quality of your mind. If your mind is healthy enough, there are things you can do within 1 or 2, 3 years. If your mind is not too strong enough, the same thing might take you 7, 8, 9, 10 years to do it. So the key word now depends on you and the health of your mind, meaning the level, the capacity you have to solve the problems you'll be seeing. That is what decides how it works. And then also another dimension to it is to look at the quality of your dream. You know, people have dreams. If you have a project that is huge, for instance, if you're dealing with a project where you want to compete with people like Jeff Bezos, for instance, and Elon Musk, it means the size is bigger. So the processing process might take a little bit longer. So we look at the size of the project, the quality of the project, then we look at the size of your mind. If your mind is capable, then it will manage it. Those two work hand in hand.
Wow, this is powerful. I'm so excited to hear what I'm hearing today because for the first time, I'm hearing some things. I use the word first time. You may think he's my friend, but the guy is deep. He's really deep. Don't mind me. I have a way of getting around these guys. It's just God helping me. So are we moving forward? Or you still want to say some things?
Let's move. So we're just scratching things on the surface. We're not going deep. It's just touch. So the next slide. Let's go to the next slide.
So once we go to the next slide, I'm sure we'll just ask some questions and end up in the next slide. But I'll give you time to explore as much as you can on the next slide. So Mr. Victor, the stage is yours. Over to you.
Yes. This is what I developed in my journey of knowledge economy. One of the things I learned is because, like I said, if you look at the quadrant, transformation quadrant, because people are dealing with data from different level, 4 different level, and vertical and horizontal level. Um, like I said, people are dealing with data from the point of awareness. Some are dealing with data and information from the point of deformation. Some are dealing with data and information from the point of reformation, and some are dealing with data and data and information from the point of transformation. So what I did was this: I had to start developing tools. I have to develop maps to be able to guide people at different level of their life. So what you have there is the transformation extended, which is what helps to define knowledge economy more. And what you have there is what we call the future quadrant. And what we're looking at is what are the different level of information, types of data, types of information you need to process when you're going through this journey. It helps you understand the awareness kind of data, the data that are focused strictly on the level of your deformation level, the kind of data and information you need to focus on when you're dealing with reformation, and also the kind of data you need to focus on when you're dealing with transfiguration. It's like a wheel and a circle, because transfiguration is not the end of your life. It is just the end of one season of your life. Immediately you finish that season, the next thing that follows is you start a journey again, which means you start again awareness, you start deformation, reformation, because everyone has one big season divided into smaller season. It's like one big vision divided into goals and target. That's why our life is. Internally, we want to be rich, yes, but there are short-term goals we need to achieve, medium-term goals we need to get to be able to get to that ultimate vision. So that's how life is. Life will come in seasons. It will come in times, measured season. So if you learn this well, what it does for you, it helps you understand the season you're in, then you complete the circle from awareness to transfiguration. Immediately you're done with transfiguration, the universe reboots. He expects you to phase 2. Then you need to move again and start your awareness circle. So because of that, it was necessary for me to build deeper maps, kind of deeper tools, and this is what gave birth to things like common sense. This is what gave birth to what do you call it, the future quadrant, knowledge economy. This is what gave birth the future quadrant, leadership. This is what gave birth to tools like 60 seconds. This is what gave birth to tools like Spanish web. This is what gave birth to tools like Act Reborn and the rest of them, entirely because it can be complex. But my own way of simplifying the process for anyone who wants to learn and make the best out of it is to create all these things. I think we need to go to the next slide so that I just sum it up, because if you enter to this slide now, I really don't think we're heading anywhere. Now, if you look at this, remember initially I talked about the mind. This is the average map of the mind, as in the mind in its most simplest form. Oftentimes, when we talk about the mind, most people focus on the brain, but which is wrong. The mind is not the brain. Now, and some will focus on the heart. The heart is not the mind. Some will tell you it's about God, but God is not the mind. The mind is a combination of these three. You will see what I call source code there, then you see the head and the heart. So all of them come together to form the mind, because essentially, what is the mind? The mind is an energy field. That is where you generate the energy you need to achieve anything in life. You may have all the information you have on earth. If your mind don't have the capacity to process it and using the energy push it, you will not get it. And that is why you hear things like beliefs, things like conviction, things like willpower. All of those things are what, when you generate it in your mind, when the power in your mind is generated, it's like electricity. It gives you it can power anything on earth. Anyone who see that is performing at an optimized level, the person have generated the power in their mind, because it's like the simple electricity we know. Depending on the kind of environment you live, there are kind of transformer you have access to. The transformer regulates the kind of light you get. And based on the kind of light you get, it also regulates what you use light for. So that's how energy is. In life, every purpose requires energy. Every dream or vision requires energy. But for you to build that energy, your source code, which is actually God, but is use the word source code there so that any definition you have of your God can also suit into it. But the key thing is that is where the source of your beliefs come from. That's where the source of your meanings come from. So evidently, that's where you're going to pick some of the data you're going to need to process life. There are people who hate money today, somewhere along the line, because their belief system have issues with them making wealth. They feel guilty trying to make money or trying to make wealth. Why? Because their belief system somehow teaches that. It makes them feel like making money is a problem, is a sin. So they have issues with that. So their brain on one side is processing how to get money. They understand they have a business, they have a skill, they have a market share they are holding. But somewhere along the line, there is a restraint between what the potential of the market versus what their heart believes in, what their source of beliefs, their conviction on money making. So that conviction can conflict with the data they have in their brain. And so you might see them taking decisions, for example, in pricing. When they come to pricing, someone has a lever to set a particular price and the products are selling. But when you want to set the price, because somewhere along the line, your head data says set the price at so amount, maybe because of quality, maybe because it is an exclusive price, but because of the belief system that say, look, don't make too much money, somewhere along the line, you can feel guilty and that affects your price setting. And you see that in your business decision. That is why I said from the beginning entirely that everything that has to do with data and information comes with the quality of your mind. If your mind is not healthy, strong, and good enough, it's not a qualitative mind, you cannot process information. I will not dig into it. Please, let's go to the next slide so that I show you the summary of what I'm discussing. So that way, I think that's the slide I'll start using to close down. Let's see the next slide, sir. The next slide. Okay. So while we are waiting for the next slide, because the idea is that this can be a little bit intense, a little bit dense, but the next slide just summarizes it, especially with colors. Yes, this is the next slide and makes it quite easy. So you notice the upper triangle you have there is your source code, which means your belief system. And don't allow anybody deceive you. Everybody's as human beings, all of us, we don't have the same perspective of who God is because we were introduced to God based on our parents, our culture, our society, and our system. So it depends on who introduces you to God and depends on who tutored you about God. The image, the understanding you're going to have about God is going to be within the confine of that understanding. And so we don't share the same God in context, not because God is different in sizes, but because that is how you've been exposed to it. Anything you're not exposed properly to, it is the understanding you have. That's the only way you can process. Then you have the brain. Anyhow, whatever scientific study you see about the brain, at the end of the day, the key work of the brain is to store information and process it. Store information and process it. That's why you hear things like the brain wires and fires. So the brain, to a large extent, is like almost a system, a part of the system. What do you call it? Garbage in, garbage out. But then there are information that comes to the brain that is not the brain that generated those informations. The information were fed into the brain, and some of them can come from the heart. And the major work of the heart is actually emotions. What is emotions? Energy, emotions. So emotions add to your brain capacity to process, and then add to your source of belief system where you get your meaning. Together, all of them forms the mind, which is the orange triangle. That is where you process every knowledge, every information, every data, everything you see. And that is why, even as a teacher, Solomon, you agree with me, even as a mentor, that sometimes you give valid information to people, but they won't accept it. Why? Because their mind somehow will fight it. Not because of the validity of the information or data, it's because the mind don't just have the capacity to process it. And what that means is that they turn their back on it. And that's how it works. So you see people see Google, rather than see Google as a place where you get enough data to build all what you can. Google is a distraction for many. Facebook is the father of marketing. You really want to do target marketing, Facebook plays for you. But for many, they even don't know that power that Facebook has because their mind cannot just process it somewhere along the line because there's a problem with belief system, there's a problem with emotions, there's a problem with the kind of data they are getting. So next slide. I think that's what I'll start running up here now. And like I said, every of these things, why are we taking decision? Because we want to solve problem. The most important word, there are two most important words in the world today. I don't care which other word you want to use, but they are the two most important words in the world today. One is problem, the second is solution. That is what is ruling the world as we stand here. There is always a problem. Then those who solve the problem are the ones that are rewarded. They are the ones that are noticed. They are the ones that make sense. Entirely, the definition of your person as a human being is qualified and scaled based on your capacity to solve problems. So when we say decision making, when we say knowledge economy, entirely the key word is focused on what knowledge and data do you have? What can you solve? That's the key word. What can you solve? That's why ultimately World Economic Summit will tell you that problem solving is the most important skill in the world today. If you can't solve problem, then there is a problem. Because you need to solve your personal problem, solve community problem, solve your relationship problem, solve national problem. It's just problem, problem, problem. But those problems are not supposed to be what we are afraid of. Because if you study the history of problem, you understand that officially before now, problem, it was mathematics that gave the concept we have to problem. In those days, it was just mathematics. When people started having challenges in learning mathematics, they started calling mathematics a problem. And immediately start calling a problem, so problem becomes challenging. But the key word for problem is opportunity. Anytime you see a problem, hey, there is something good there. But you just have to have the capacity, the mindset to be able to solve that problem. And that is the purpose of knowledge economy. Whether you're running a class online, whether you're writing a book, whether it's a school and institution, whether it is leadership, the whole essence of why we're learning everything we're learning is gain insight, gain information, get data, and solve a problem. That's all. Every business is built on a problem. What makes a leader? Problem solving. What makes a good relationship? They solve their problem. Everything you do on earth is number one word, problem, solution. So knowledge economy is sitting on the capacity to solve problem through decision making. But you can't make decision except you have data and information. And that is what makes the entire circle of what knowledge economy is. I think I'll stop here, sir.
Can you hear me, sir?
Yes, I can hear. I say, let me stop here. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. I think we're having a little challenge with the internet on the device, but nevertheless, I'm sure we had a very good ending. I don't know whether this is captured directly on the platform, but thank you so much. What you have done successfully now is you have successfully created a problem, because people will be asking me for people will be asking me for how do I get to connect with Victor Prince Dickson? How do I get, of course, some of these details you are going to leave with us. And part of the problem you have also created, okay, we're still up. Part of the problem you have also created is that I'm sure people will want to have this PowerPoint slide. So what you will do is send me a DM, send me a direct message that I want this PowerPoint, and I'll make it available for you. It's just a short PowerPoint, but I bet you is one of the problem that will bring you problem to explain to you some of the things you may see as jargon in some of the slide. But nevertheless, this has been an amazing session. I wish we can continue on and on. But looking at some of the short slides he has brought before us, you can tell that this thing is really deep. But it's not about just the deepness of how the session is. It's about the transformation it can bring to life, to businesses, to culture, and diverse things that have to do with life. It's such a privilege to have the inventor of common sense. And he's an inventor of so many things. These are just a few I'll put down here. And his work has been so revolutionary. He's doing a lot of projects in the US and UK virtually, and of course, he may have to travel those countries in a couple of weeks or so. But nevertheless, I want you to take advantage of this session and please ask questions. If you have made comments, just get us feedback. We're going to reply you. I assure you we're going to do that. I'm not assuring you like, but I assure you we'll reply you. So thank you so much. Any last word, Mr. Victor? Any last word?
I think my last word would be this. As an individual, make sure you don't die full. Make sure that you optimize before you leave planet Earth. There is so much you carry. Don't settle for less. Wake up, pursue something great. Don't allow anybody blind you by telling you it's impossible. Don't allow people who have not gone through the path discourage you. Greatness lies await for every one of us. But if you just decide to transform, then you're going to get anything you want out of life.
Thank you so much. I'm taking you off stage. I'll join you there shortly. Now, everyone, I really want to appreciate you for staying with us on this amazing session with Victor Prince Dickson on the knowledge economy. And we looked at basically just a few tips on the secret code to the human capital development. He was able to touch some few things on the vocal concept. Then he brought us down to the knowledge, the knowledge economy aspect, where he touched a little summary on awareness, deformation, reformation, and transfiguration. Amazing, amazing, and amazing session. Now, he began with a decision, he ended with a decision, and so I want you to take decision to take up your business, your life, whatever you want to take to the next level by applying some of these things he has shared today. And please, if you need more information around today's session, you can send me a DM and definitely we will get in touch with you. Thank you so much for your time. Do join us in the next session. Of course, we're going to keep you updated on that date. Thank you so much. We look forward to connecting with you again next time. Have a beautiful weekend.